the Rams beat the Denver Broncos 51-14, and Baker Mayfield, the Rams' kind of new quarterback, played really well. Baker was 24 for 28 passing, had 230 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. It's also worth noting that Cam Akers ran 23 times for 118 yards and 3 touchdowns. I really think Sean McVay's system in LA operates at its very best when they've got a really good running game. That's what we got to see on Sunday, Christmas Day. I remain very, very curious about Baker Mayfield's future because clearly he can play, but I think he needs help. And as I look around the NFL, I don't see a situation where there's just not a lot of good NFL teams that need a quarterback. Like, if your team is good, it's because your quarterback is good. Baker needs to go somewhere, I think, that has good receivers, a good offensive line, a good defense. I think he needs help to win, but doesn't every quarterback? And maybe the Jets are an option. Would Baker go to the Jets? Is Baker an upgrade over Mike White with the Jets? I don't know. But what good team also needs a quarterback and also has a good coach? I don't know. That leads me to a question from Davis on Patreon, patreon.com/Zach Schaumler, patreon.com/Zach Schaumler. Good way to support the show. Davis wrote in and said, "Merry holiday season from my home to your podcasting pickup. Baker looked good on Christmas. If you're the Rams, are you risking to pay an aged Matthew Stafford next year who could get hurt easier, or the younger Baker Mayfield?" So Davis asked the question assuming that there's an option for the Rams to pick Baker Mayfield instead of Matthew Stafford. I want to clarify something. The only way that Baker Mayfield stays in LA as the starting quarterback is if Matthew Stafford retires, because Matthew Stafford is already under contract for the 2026 NFL season. So all the way through 2026, Matthew Stafford's locked up. There is an out in the contract where after the 2025 season, the Rams could walk away for a much smaller penalty. However, let's acknowledge another thing. The Rams and Sean McVay appear to be a perfect system and situation and fit for Baker Mayfield. But unfortunately, I think LA is not a long-term solution, a long-term spot for Baker to play, unless he wants to be the number 2 guy. And I think that would be very smart for Baker. As I look around the NFL, I don't see a lot of opportunities where Baker's going to be not only handed a starting job, which I think is not going to happen anywhere for Baker at this point, but also that it is a good situation where he could succeed. Like, Carolina was not a good opportunity for Baker. And what team around the NFL doesn't have a quarterback that's ready to win? Maybe Miami, but that's it. And I'd love to see Baker go to Miami. That would be really fun and really interesting. But other than the Jets and Miami, can you name a team that needs a quarterback, potentially, and has a pretty decent roster? I can't. One solution is stay in LA. Be the backup. Matthew Stafford might get hurt again. He also could retire sooner than we think, before the 2026 season. I think to stay in LA, a great town if you're rich, near Lincoln Riley, your college head coach, your wife's happy, it's sunny, it's warm, it's certainly not cold Cleveland in December. I think you stay in LA, you fight it out, you enjoy living there, and you never know. Baker's name could get called again, even as the number 2 guy behind Matthew Stafford. I don't think it's a crazy possibility to think maybe Baker stays as a backup. I don't know that his ego is going to allow that. I think he wants to be a starting quarterback, and I don't blame him. And maybe Seattle's an option. Maybe, I think the Jets or Miami are Baker's best shot to get on the field as a starting quarterback. Is Baker really better than Mike White? I don't know. Is Baker better than Tua? I believe so. I believe Baker could play much better than Tua's played the last 4 weeks. Miami's basically the only option I can think of for Baker to become a starting quarterback again. Unless I'm blanking on something. Pittsburgh's got Kenny Pickett. The Falcons need a quarterback, but that's a horrible franchise with a lot of bad stuff going on that I would not be party to. Tennessee, maybe. Where could Baker go be a starting quarterback other than Miami? I don't know, but maybe the option is to stay in LA with a coach you like, in a city you like, your life's pretty good, and you never know. If you stay and fight, you might get another opportunity to once again become the Rams starting quarterback, even if Matthew Stafford's there. Maybe something happens to him. Maybe he retires. Maybe he plays bad and gets benched. You never know. I'm very, very curious what happens with the future of Baker Mayfield.